Welcome to another debate of Ben versus. I am your moderator, Jace Lejeune, and the first contestant, first rival today is Cabe Bond, who's taking on Ben Hall for the first time. If you just saw our first debate, it was who is the biggest NFL draft bust of all time. Ben sided with Jamarcus Russell, and then Cabe sided with Ryan Leaf. Now we have another topic for debate, but this is what's really good about this. You get the chance to vote on who comes out on top, who did a better job of defending their person or team, or whatever the topic is discussed. Now here is the second topic for debate. So the second one is actually revolved around college football. You just heard the first time was revolved around the NFL. Now it is college football. And it comes in very recently because Nick Saban just retired. He has been pretty much the king of college football, the dictator of college football, as he's dominated the last decade plus. But since now he is retired, who is best set up for success to be that next king, that next dynasty of college football, since Nick Saban is not at Alabama? Maybe it is Alabama, but we're going to let Ben and Cabe decide what team is in the best, is shaped up the best to be that next dynasty of college football. Ben, you go first. What team is in best position to be that team?
I am going to sound very, to the fans, maybe not what they thought, but I'm actually going to say LSU, and it's because I feel like what happened a few years ago with the national championship was a team that that brought a spotlight to college football as good as we've ever seen in college football history. And so I think that spotlight Brian Kelly is trying to bring back. And he's going to bring it back because I believe in Coach Kelly. I think he's a very good coach. I think he's recruiting very well. And I really think if LSU can figure out their little wrinkles, LSU has a chance to be something we've never seen. And I say that more humbly on what he is as a coach in college football.
As an LSU beat writer, I really like Ben's answer right there on why he decided to side with the LSU Tigers. Obviously, there's a lot of potential there for Brian Kelly in Baton Rouge. But Cabe, it's your turn to debate. It's not LSU for you, but it's another SEC team that is in best position to be the heir apparent to Alabama and Nick Saban. What team is that?
For me, I have to say, even though it hurts me to say, I have to say Georgia is in the best setting right now to be able to be the next dictator in college football. As much as I want to say LSU, I think they're a couple years off. And if they're 2025 class, if all of them don't commit, then that's another uncertainty. Georgia has built what LSU is building for right now. Their defensive line, first off, you can just start with that, is absurd. Every year they have an elite defensive player on that defensive line who is just causing havoc. Then you look at their defensive backfield with their defenders. This year, Malachi Starks, Tyke Smith. Tyke Smith had 4 interceptions playing from the nickel. I mean, you have these guys playing absurd pass coverage. Elite Kamari Lassiter this year, great pass coverage, and then their linebackers, the most complete defense, good offensive line. They had 14 players on their roster in 2023 over 6'1" in the wide receiver room alone. It is any position that any quarterback can go in and succeed. That's a franchise right there.
You heard it. So Cabe is going with a team that's really building to become that dynasty. They've already won back-to-back championships with Kirby Smart, so they're definitely on their way. But Ben, why do you disagree? It's not Georgia as the next potential dynasty in college football.
Well, I feel like for LSU to have 2 Heisman Trophy winners in a span of a few years, is that normal? No, it's not. It's a spotlight, and that Brian Kelly, it takes time to get a roster together. Like we said before, they only had 39 scholarship players. When he walked into a situation very odd, but now he's had the next few years recruit. He's won 10 games back-to-back years. He's getting all the problems out that he had to get out as a head coach, and that they got a Heisman Trophy winner that's leaving now. That's going to be spotlighted for years to come. Not just tomorrow, but but for years to come. Anytime you have a Heisman Trophy winner, that changes your whole outlook for the history of your college football program.
And Cabe, so Ben has some pretty good results there, pretty good reasons why LSU could potentially be the next upcoming program, next upcoming dynasty. In fact, they've actually won the second most national championships in the last 20 years behind Alabama. But why isn't it LSU?
So I'm going to start with saying that I think it all depends on their future right now. You're looking at their 2025 class. It's being ranked on number 1 on a bunch of sites. If they don't land those guys, it's all for nothing. And on top of that, the 2 Heisman winners that they had, it all depends on if you win. Joe Burrow won. That's perfect. Jaden Daniels, we made a bowl game against Wisconsin, didn't even make a New Year's Six game. You need consistent wins. Not to mention after 2019, you had the worst LSU team in almost program history that year in 2020. The team needs to learn or to build consistency in order for it to be the franchise best team in college for the next decade.
Now, both of y'all will have one more chance to defend your own side. So, Ben, you have 2 more minutes I'm already sold on LSU because, I'm already covering the LSU Tigers. But you got 2 more minutes to convince the audience why LSU is going to be the next dynasty in college football.
Well, and the only reason I'm laughing is I have to laugh for a second because, when you think about this, they just had a Heisman Trophy winner. That's a big deal. The big thing is, let's all go back to something to remember, fans. They had the best college football team in 2019 that they've compared to Miami and Nebraska. Do I need to say any more? I think a lot of the fans are lost at that. Why would you be lost as a fan that you just a couple years ago had a team that they're going to talk about not just for a day, not for a week, for years to come. And then you had 2 Heisman Trophy winners within a span of, 5 years? That's not normal. Tell me if that's normal in college football. That's not to win a national champion. Now to have that as a Heisman Trophy winner, right? 2, and then okay, you don't win a championship. You're trying to get to 10 wins, whatever. But you won a national championship. Programs have turnaround. When Coach Saban went to Bama, it wasn't looking pretty. Shoot, Bear Bryant had been away for many years, and that they did what they did. And see, let's go back to something. There's a man on that staff right now. It's one of the best recruiters. Probably you're going to find the SEC's had in years. And that man's name is Frank Wilson. And when you got Frank Wilson on your staff and many others that can recruit, you're going to fit to your roster every year. Well, you know what Brian Kelly's doing? He's fitting to his roster. 39 scholarship players. Think about that, fans. That's 46 open slots. It doesn't happen in 1 week. It takes time. But now we're in 2024 season. He's going to have his roster, his players, and those coaches he hired, they recruited to what they're going to fit to. And let's remember, if you don't know this about Brian Kelly, the man has been a part of setting NCAA records in offense. Like some great offenses that will go down to some of the best, in record histories. The man is a very gifted coach. And I guess one thing that fans have got to see, he could have gone 500 back-to-back years, but what happened? They won 10 games. Big deal.
Yep, so that's your 2 minutes are up, Ben, right on the spot. And I agree with you. I'm covering LSU Tigers a whole lot, been around there, definitely like what Brian Kelly's doing. But Cabe, according to Cabe, it's not LSU. It is actually the Georgia Bulldogs. And hey, hard to go against them right now. They won 2 national championships really recently with Kirby Smart. So Cabe, you got 2 minutes to debate on your side why it's actually the Georgia Bulldogs that everybody should be feared for right now.
So I want to talk about what is unnatural. Winning back-to-back national championships. Prior to Georgia doing that, it was Alabama in 2011 and 2012 that had achieved that. Those are 2 of the greatest college football teams ever. You're looking at one of the best LSU teams ever in 2011. Couldn't get past the 50-yard line against them. That's how good of a team that was. Sure, Georgia hasn't produced Heisman winners, but they win. Their team is consistently the best. And then not to even mention back-to-back national championship performances, let's look at their second national championship performance. Went against TCU. TCU beat Michigan, who won a national championship this year. And then they dogged TCU 67-7, something like that. I mean, they beat them so bad. Max Duggan didn't even get drafted. I mean, they thought he was a pee-wee football player. Prior to Alabama doing that in 2011, you have to go to the 20th century. You can't even look in this century to see the last time there was a back-to-back national championship winner. Prior to Alabama and Georgia, it was Nebraska, Alabama again, Texas, and Oklahoma. Oklahoma in 1956. I mean, that's how uncommon it is. One of the back-to-back winners was maybe alive before your grandparents were alive. And Georgia did something that happened there before Vietnam happened. I mean, Georgia replicated that. That's unnatural. They are a team that consistently wins. Even in this year, they won. Maybe didn't make it to the national championship, but got a New Year's Six bowl. And on top of that, they dogged Florida State again, who everyone thought should have been in the Final Four of college football teams. That's why Georgia's the next up.
So very compelling argument, and you can't go wrong with either team right now, especially with the SEC expanding. So we'll see if LSU and Georgia can be what Nick Saban built at Alabama. Now, guys, it's your turn to decide. It's your turn to vote. Who won the argument? Did Ben win the argument, or did Cabe win the argument? Is LSU the next upcoming dynasty in college football, or is it Georgia? Well, folks, it's your turn to decide. Go vote to see who won this argument between Ben and Cabe.